So hello and welcome to CDO Magazine's interview series. My name is Fred Knops and I'm the Senior Vice President of Solutions at Data Society. And today I have the pleasure of talking to Ido Biger, Executive Vice President and CIO and CDO of Delek US Holdings. Thank you, Ido, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
I believe Delek has 4 primary divisions. Do you benchmark within your division, sort of within the company? And how does that go if you do it?
No, the benchmarking is mainly dealing with what we call the enablement heat map, right? So in the aviation industry, you compare yourself versus other airlines, right? If you want to see what best in class, the class means the industry, right? Best in class service for a telco company is not best in class service for an airline, and definitely not best in class service for a bank, right? So if you were working with a bank and with the compliance department, you're working on the fraud prevention department, you have to compare yourself to other fraud preventions of different banks because you're facing the same challenges, right? I always treat it in a very humble way. That means you're not going to be the first one dealing with it, and you have so many peers that are dealing with the same issues. So the best thing you can see is, first of all, understand what's going on. So the same thing as I mentioned before about learning the business within, the same thing you need to do outside and to understand what's going on in this new industry that you're dealing with right now and what is considered to be best in class. And by the way, it doesn't mean that you have to be best in class in everything, right? We have budget limitations, people's limitations, adoption limitations, right? If your refinery is in a certain condition and your peers have a different condition for their refineries, it doesn't mean that necessarily your ability to implement digitalization now is in the same level of your peers. And then we have created what is called the technology enablement heat map that shows us pretty much all of the business functions and their sub-functions and the level of technology enablement that they have versus the benchmark of the industry. So if I'm seeing that, I don't know, accounting on the finance division is now being supported yellow, it doesn't mean that our accounting team isn't good. It just means that technology-wise, they are enabled as the average of the benchmark. If they are green, it means their systems and the technology implementation is supporting them better than the other accounting teams in our industry. And that's kind of puts us in perspective. And when you show it to the board of directors and when you show it to the management team and you're asking strategy-wise, because everything involves, which project you're going to do in order to move it from yellow to green. Which project are you going to do to make it a red into yellow? How much money does it take? How much time does it take? And then you build a roadmap 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ahead of where you want to be. Because probably you won't be green everywhere, because even if now you are yellow somewhere, the other companies are still moving forward. So maybe today's yellow is tomorrow's red, and maybe today's green is tomorrow's yellow. So you have to keep on maintaining it and pushing it forward in order even to just keep it in the same level as it is. And this is the main challenge that we're facing. And this is the very important alignment that we have to do with both the board of directors, the executive teams, my peers, and of course, the rest of the organization.
That's quite interesting. It sounds like you're driving change across a variety of elements throughout a complex business. When driving change like that, we often hear people talk about the 3 key elements, right? People, process, and technology. Do you start with one of the 3? Do you focus in a particular area? How do you get started and where do you focus over time?
Well, I think, there is none of the 3 is less important than the others, but people, if you don't have the right team, the rest will not matter, right? Because if you have the right team, you will build together the right processes and you will find the relevant technologies to implement those. If you have the wrong people and you have the right technology, it won't work. If you have a great process and the wrong team, it won't work. So you have to establish your team, and you have to make sure that if you are really building a business-driven division, they have to understand business first, and then you have to make sure that they have the right level of proficiency to drive forward things and be the translator and the enablers. Even, just look how many times I've mentioned the word enabling. By changing the perception of a technology person, an IT person, from an IT developer to an enabler, it changes the mindset of your leadership team, your colleagues. When your colleagues are hearing that my reason for existence in this organization is to enable their aspirations and to enable their business strategy, it puts you in a place where they're becoming the kings because of things that you can enable them to do. And if this cascades down all the way to the developers and everybody else, it changes the mindset, the right people, and then everybody is aligned towards what's the right process to do it, what's the right technology. But it starts with the people that understand that they are the enablers of the business.
So on that point, so sticking with change management for a moment, how do you personally ensure that the change you are driving is always tied to the economics of the business? And by that, I mean that in an industry as vast and complex as, for example, refining, are there particular tools or habits that you use or have to help you keep your eye on the ball?
Well, I've read several articles about it, and the one that I like the most is the Amazon way. And before they're even starting something, they start with the press release. And they ask a simple question: what is the press release when you finish? Does it make sense? Does it add value? And you're saying, hey, by doing this project, we have generated $12 million a month. By doing this project, we cut our costs by $1 million a month, or whatever. I'm just saying, what's the press release? What's the business outcome out of what we have done? And that leads me to a very important question that we all ask ourselves every day. In which way is Delek US better today than it was yesterday, thanks to things that we have done? And you have to have a clear answer to that. Otherwise, you are in the wrong way. You're not focusing on where you should focus. Same thing with projects. In which way Delek US will be better when we're going to finish this project versus now that we didn't do it yet? And if we don't have a clear answer to that, we don't even start. And it's not a unique way for us, but it's very precise with understanding the value. And usually the people that should answer that are the business people. They will say, my day will transform. Tomorrow morning, by having this, I will be able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That will save me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That will enable me to do X, Y, Z. And without having a clear answer to that, there is no point. So that's what kind of puts us in a very kind of a focused area. The other thing is, of course, having a very clear priorities. And every week in my L1 discussions and L1 and L2 discussions, we always start with what are the priorities. And by the way, you cannot change your priorities every week. It at least goes with you for a quarter, 2 quarters. These are the priorities. So whenever you have 2 things on your plate and you're thinking, what should I focus on? What should I do now? Remember the priorities and make sure that it aligns to where we go. And of course, you attach to it the goals, the bonuses, etc., etc. So it makes it easier for people to focus on what delivers value versus other things that might be unique, might be great, might be exciting, but not delivering value.
Ido, you've got a great story. It's been such a joy to talk to you today. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for joining CDO Magazine today.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you very much.
And to our viewers, please visit cdomagazine.tech if you would like to see additional interviews. Thank you all.